So with this chapter, I think we can all come to the same conclusion that Rayleigh is top one on every tier list from here on out. Let's just settle that right now. People put Emu, people put Rocks, people put Joy Boy and Roger, and we were all wrong. Silver's Rayleigh, the Dark King, is top one of the verse. He just is. Can we all agree on that? Can we come together as a community and accept that in chapter 1158 of the next piece of One Piece, Rayleigh is the best? Alright, so let's get underway with this chapter. So, chapter 1158, Rocks versus Harold. It's a really cool clash and stuff like that, but there's other things to talk about in this chapter. The big thing, of course, is actually in the cover serial itself. The person from the West Blue who did so much for Wano and things like that is Kazuki Moria? Big question mark. I was spoiled on this yesterday. Normally I try to stay away from all the, the subreddits and stuff like that, but someone happened to mention something in the Discord and it's fine. That Moria is the Kazuki. Now, a lot of this actually can make sense. Like, this isn't really... I mean, it's coming out of nowhere. It's coming as a big shocker. I don't think anybody in Wano would have said, you know who could be a long-lost Kazuki member? Gecko Moria. I don't remember anybody coming up with that theory. There's been some crazy theories out there, especially during the Wano arc. Gecko Moria being a Kazuki was not one of them. But, in context, this does make sense. I'm fine with it. And everyone else is talking about it, so I'm not going to regurgitate what everyone else has already said. Discord, Reddit, YouTube, Twitter, etc. I'm not going to waste everyone's time and talk about what avenue you want to go down. I'll just let you know that I personally think that he's not officially a Kazuki. I think he was either post-mortem, like they believe he's gone, because obviously this is a shrine, this is a grave. So they believe Moria, the one who fought against Kaido and stuff like that, they believe he's gone for whatever reason, that he's dead. So I believe that maybe this is post-mortem, like he became an honorary member of the Kazuki clan for standing up to Kaido and battling him and what's right. Like, this is one of those, we don't have the whole story sort of idea. And the people of Wano saw Moria not as this villainous, conniving person, but this, man of honor who followed the way of the samurai and fought against the tyrant Kaido for the good of Wano. That's the way they view him. That's the way I'm going to go with it. And once again, remember that Moria was the person he is the bad timeline Luffy. He's a bad timeline version of the characters like Oda's been drawing in the SBSs, because he was devastated by the loss of his crew. And remember, and here's the difference. Moria, when Moria lost his whole crew to Kaido, he didn't have a Jinbei. That's the difference. Luffy, mind shattered and broke by losing not even a member of his crew, and I mean, you can argue that Ace mattered more to, or around the same, but here's the thing. Luffy lost Ace. He still had his crew, even though, they were taken away by Kuma and stuff like that at the time. He lost one important person to him. Moria, from what we understand, lost everybody important to him. He lost everybody. Now you imagine Luffy, mind broken and shattered, and without Jinbei helping him out, would have basically just beat himself up to the point of probably throwing himself into the ocean and drowning. You know what I mean? He could not cope with the death of Ace. Now you imagine Luffy, if he had lost not just Ace, but every member of his crew. Robin, Nami, Usopp, Zoro, all of them. And they all died. Honestly, Moria handled it better than I believe Luffy would have, in all honesty. So, yeah, it's actually really sad, Moria's current state of affairs. If you actually stop and think about it, our beloved main character would not have coped as well as Moria. That's the sad thing. That's the crux of how important that was. Now, once again, context is everything. We don't have enough details in that, but I'm just going to say, if Moria was a similar Luffy type of person once upon a time, similar to Crocodile, similar to all these guys, who just wanted to go to adventure, be king of the pirates and friends and stuff like that, and this, Thriller Bark and zombifying everything was his coping method, I can't really fault the guy as much. So it's interesting that there is the possibility that Kazuki Moria is actually, that's his true name, that he actually is a member of the Kazuki clan, whether an offshoot branch family or what have you, he actually is a member. I'm just going off on a limb and saying that he was honorarily post-mortem given, indoctrinated into the clan as a sign of respect. That's what I'm going with. So, anyways, yeah, that's enough about the cover serial. I just said that I wasn't going to cover it, but I believe that point hasn't been brought up enough. The comparison between Luffy in a bad timeline is very much Gecko Moria. A Luffy who loses his whole crew is what Moria became. Luffy's not perfect. And so we sort of see that, and it's interesting that Oda has these different characters going through the same journey as Luffy, but in a wrong timeline, if you will. So, when we continue on, we see that in the actual chapter proper, we're at the Oro Jackson, and we see that Roger's been pouting and stuff like that on deck, while the rest of the crew has been saying, like, hey, like, did you hear? Like, Shaki's opened up a bar and all this stuff, and on Pirate Island, let's go. And it seems that they've visited, by the time we actually see them, they've visited the bar before, because Roger already knows the rules about it and stuff like that. Now, you could argue word of mouth and stuff like that, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say that they're already keenly aware of this. Scopper goes up to Rayleigh and says, like, hey, has Roger been in a bad mood ever since you two spoke privately and stuff? So after that last encounter in battle where Shaki winked at Rayleigh and took down Scopper and Roger without much problem or what have you, supposedly Rayleigh was handed a note by Shaki that we did not see. Now, there could have been another battle between the battle that we actually saw and before Shaki decided to leave the Kuja Pirates and open up the bar. There could have been another battle in between or what have you, but either way, it doesn't really matter which battle took place. It was the last battle while she was still Empress of the Kudra Pirates and their captain, and passed Rayleigh a note. And because Rayleigh said, yeah, like, she was acting strange and stuff like that. She acted like she was sick or something, so I was worried about her. And you tell me that she gave you this during the battle? And he's like, yeah, I was kind of speechless. So I don't believe that this, because when I initially read it, it seemed to imply the battle that we saw in the previous chapter, but now it seems like there was a battle in between that we just did not see, because apparently Shaki was off her game and Roger seemed to notice, and so did Rayleigh, but Rayleigh also was handed this note saying, come and make me yours, and gave it to Rayleigh. And it's just like, oh wow. So she did contract, and I believe Gloriosa, I don't know if this was confirmed in an SBS or what have you, but I believe it was confirmed that all the previous empresses that between Gloriosa and Hancock all suffered lovesickness. So that would have included Shaki. So Shaki did contract lovesickness for Rayleigh, we assumed, and now confirmed to be Rayleigh here in this chapter. But I love the directness of this. This is very... I don't really know how to describe it. It's just the wording of it is very shocking. It's very still prideful, but it's also like, out of all the men, out of all the men who are chasing me and all the men who love me, and she has literally the most powerful men in the world at her beck and call, but she doesn't want them. She wants the one who doesn't go all gaga over her, And I like that, and she's like, you're the one who can make me actually feel, you know what I mean? Like all of them, they'll just do whatever I say, but and it's not that Rayleigh's unaffected by her beauty, and that's confirmed in this chapter, because we saw he doesn't go completely, heart eyes over her. He doesn't go full Sanji Master Roshi mode. like everybody else in the series does. But he still admits here, he's like, oh, no, yeah, she's gorgeous, she's beautiful and stuff like that. It's like, you're not interested? It's like, no, I'd be lying if I said I wouldn't be interested. Of course I'm interested. It's Shocky. She's amazing. But, the sea's call. He's very much got that the sea calls to me. Adventure. I don't want to settle down right now. I don't know if I ever want to. I want to be on this crew. I want to go out and adventure on the sea and stuff like that. Like this, my heart is in adventure right now. It's very much a Luffy aspect. I know a lot of people want to say that Luffy's asexual and stuff, and that's a whole nother debate. But I think that this is one of those things where it's just a prioritization about what you truly want in life. Some people, there are people that should never get married for this very reason. A lot of, and in today's day and age, so many people they want the career and the family, and they don't know how to balance it, and then they end up both aspects of their life suffer because they can't decide which one's more important. And honestly, when it comes to that, it's very, very difficult. It's an incredibly difficult thing to choose between these two things. And Rayleigh right now is like, I don't want to put myself or her. I don't want to hurt her feelings. I don't want to hurt my feelings, but I don't want to put myself in that situation because right now, as great as Shocky is, right now, this is my passion. I'm in love with the adventure in the sea right now. And it would be unfair to myself. It would be unfair to her to, all right, when it's convenient for me, I'll come make you mine. You know what I mean? Like, I respect Rayleigh for this so much because this is exactly how someone who isn't just thinking with the other head is gonna do this sort of thing. Like, it just, I know I'm sort of jumping all over the place with this one. I just really like this moment. I like this conversation between Roger and Rayleigh. I like the fact that Rayleigh acknowledges that, of course, he'd love to settle down with Shocky, but just not right now. Now's not the time, and it would be unfair to try to start a relationship when I'm not interested in dividing my focus. And as I said, like, some people can make it work. They can have, the career, they can have the family, they can be the parent, they can be the, they can do the extracurricular activities, they can do their passions, you know what I mean? And that's great for some people, but I would argue it's such a small percentage or minority of people who can actually balance for not just for 6 months or a year, but for years, for decades, for a lifetime. They can manage having and raising a family, keeping wife happy, keeping kids happy and out of trouble, managing a successful career while still having enough time for your passion, whether it's art or video games or working on cars, whatever it is. But you can divide everything equally and nothing feels left out. I absolutely tip my hat to those people who can manage that, because it's so difficult, and Rayleigh's just sitting there like, yeah, no, I don't think that I can make that happen, and it'd be unfair, so we're just not going to do that. So Roger at first is sort of thinking, okay, Roger is upset. Of course he is, because he is into Shocky, right? Roger's into Shocky. Shocky's never been into Roger. Roger knows this, and obviously so, because he's thinking about it. He's like, you're not interested? It's like, I don't want to be tied down. Well, I do. Like, damn, if it was me, I'd jump at the chance sort of idea. Now, this is where he claims to the crew that he's not giving up. And we are pirates and we live to plunder and go find that booty. And that booty doesn't want me, but wants my first mate. So we're going to play the greatest wingmen crew of all time. And I'm not going to tell the crew that that's exactly what we're doing. Roger is a bro. Roger is a number one wingman. He's like, we're out on the sea. We're having this great adventure. Rayleigh's too, like thick-headed to Roger's degree. Roger's like, if he won't do it for himself, he goes, I'm going to turn this whole damn ship around. We're going to go there under the pretense that it's for me. But he actually does likes Shockey, and since Shockey likes Rayleigh, and Rayleigh's obviously his partner, his best friend, sort of idea, Roger's sort of like, well, if she wants you and you're interested and you're thinking like, I don't have time for it, it's like, we're going to make time for this. Like, I'm going to be your wingman here, man. You know what I mean? So that's the vibe I was getting from this, because they take off and stuff like that. And we do jump to another scene that we'll talk about, but we'll just continue that part. Then we'll talk about St. Garling showing up and talking about God Valley. Ooh, So we see that at Shockey's Ripoff Bar on Pirate Island, everyone's a single file. There's a line that's waiting for over a month and stuff like that. And Shockey's got no time for people. It's just like, oh, I've heard all about your delicious beef stew, and it's one of the most wonderful things. And I waited a whole month, and I sailed the 7 seas to get here to have some of your beef stew. Yeah, well, that's great, but I'm not cooking it for you and stuff. And nobody cares. Like, she's like, oh, yeah, and, oh, what about your world-famous whiskey? Yeah, we ran out. Give them the cheap shit. Oh, okay. And everybody's good with it because, of course, it's Shockey. She can get away with it. And it's like Boa Hancock, except, like, dialed up even further. Like, she can get away with literally anything. So, we see everyone here in the background and stuff, and it's just hilarious. We got Big Mom, we got Whitebeard, we got Wang Ji and stuff like that. Like, everybody's here just chilling at the bar. Though, Rox has this, and I'm really glad for this, because the theory was going around that Blackbeard was Rox and Shockey's kid. And I was like, no. Shockey has already shown that she is into Rayleigh. She's not going to hook up with anybody else. She's just not. She's going to use the men to her advantage, and the women, like, to her advantage, of course, because why wouldn't you? But she's not going to hook up with anybody else. So I immediately dismissed that theory and said, you're all nuts. And obviously right here, we can tell that that's not the case, because Rox has this really, like, shit-eating grin on his face, and Shockey notices it. So does Big Mom, and they both say, like, a woman's intuition is never wrong. What's with that grin on your face, Rox? Oh, it's not for me anymore, is it? And stuff. And he's like, oh, it's none of your business. It's like, Rox and Blackbeard's mom sitting in a tree, sort of idea. Yeah, he's grinning like he's expecting a kid. It's very much brought up, and this would make sense, because Blackbeard should be born around this time or the following year. Like, somebody's pregnant right now with Blackbeard, so yeah. Now this is where, as I said, Roger shows up under the pretense of, Shockey, I've come for you, it's me, Roger, sort of idea, and the crew's there, there's Scopper, everyone's there, right? And it's all good. Now, this is where Rox and Roger, and I'm like, how's this going to go down? Like, and Rox is like, Roger, how many? Because, of course, he was obviously rivals, but now it's more like the Edward. Like, Rox is so different from what we all expected. I think we all expected Rox to be like the evil pirate. We expected him to be Blackbeard, like current Blackbeard. We expected him to be evil and destructive, which he's a pirate. Remember, pirates aren't good people. They're not supposed to be the good guys. They are criminals, and they do bad things. But Rox is definitely embodying that, but he's also got the pirate code. He's got a sense of honor. I think we expected him to be like Barbossa dialed up to 11 sort of idea, when he's more like Barbossa in the third Pirates movie, not so much the first Pirates movie. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's how Rox has been portrayed. And they do fight each other, and we do get not this chapter, we do see that they are definitely at odds and they're rivals and stuff, but they seemingly have clashed before, and it's no big deal. He's like, Roger, how many times do I tell you that this is my island? And Roger's got this shit-eating grin on his face, and he's like, oh, but fighting at Shockey's is forbidden, so why don't you stuff it? He calls him a porcupine. And it's just like, okay. This is hilarious. Like, their relationship is very much like Roger and Garp, like Harold and Rox. Like, all these guys seemingly, quote-unquote, get along. In a sense, it's like, ha, Shockey made the rules, and we're not allowed to fight, so too fucking bad. You know what I mean? So, anyways, it's like, but there was a huge line. How did you get in here? And Roger's like, there was a line. Meanwhile, everyone's knocked the hell out because he probably conquered hockey there, or he just cut them all down, sort of idea. He's like, I didn't notice a line. Whitebeard decides, like, I've had enough of this. All right, I'm leaving and stuff. He's like, I can't stand these guys. They're so damn noisy all the time. And then Roger says, "Oh yeah, don't worry about it, Shocky. Put it on Newgate's tab." And Whitebeard, as he's leaving, "No, put it on Rox's tab," and keeps on trucking. Now this is where Shocky, all blushing and stuff, she's hoping that Rayleigh is here, calling him Ray-san. Like, Roger, where's Ray? And it's like, "Oh, well, I told him to come, but he said he wasn't feeling that well, Shocky, so he's napping on the ship and stuff." Then Gloriosa, of course, notices Roger's here, jumps at the chance. "Please take me on your ship, take me with you," and stuff. It's like, I don't, funnily enough, the way Sanji acts towards women and the way that Roger acts towards Shocky is what Roger says I don't like in a woman. So the fact that you're throwing yourself at me turns me off. Like, that's almost like my deal breaker. That's my red flag. I'm not interested in you because you're interested in me. Roger's not perfect, guys. Roger's kind of toxic in this regard. But, anyways, so Gloriosa's just, not for it. Now, this is where Shocky's looking a little, a little bit disgruntled, a little bit down about the fact that Rayleigh, Rayleigh's not here and stuff. Like, I'll pass and stuff. And Roger, this is where I said, at first I was like, okay, Roger's not giving up. This is where I know for a fact that Roger's definitely trying to do this for Rayleigh, and Shocky. He's a great bro and a great wingman. He is putting this on at this point. Like, if Shocky said, "No, I'm into you now," Roger would probably say, "All right, cool." But we get this reaction shot where Shocky's like, "Oh, Rayleigh's not here." Sort of idea, and sad about it. And we see Rayleigh Rox Rayleigh. Damn, too many R's here. I thought the Willa D was the problem. It's the Willa R right now. There are too many R's. So Roger notices that Shocky is downtrodden about this and sort of like, "Rayleigh, you idiot," sort of idea. Like, we came here so that, maybe you and Shocky could have some time together, but no. Sort of idea. Like, that's the vibe I was getting here. Otherwise, why the reaction shot with Roger? And Roger knowing that Shocky's into Rayleigh. You know what I mean? And then all this stuff. Like, I think he immediately got over it, and he was like, I hope the best for my first mate and my partner. I hope that he and Shocky have a great life together. So let's make the magic happen. Like, I wish she was into me, but she's not. All right. You know what I mean? Like, that was the beginning of the chapter where he was sort of, depressed about it, sort of, at first. And he's like, all right, well, I had my moody moment. Now it's time to move on, sort of idea, right? And then he decides, all right, well, Rayleigh's going to be an idiot. He's like, "Oh, well, where did Newgate go? Where's Whitebeard? I want to drink with him." And he's like, "Well, he left." He's like, and then he says, "Damn it, Rayleigh, why didn't you come here?" Sort of idea. Because once again, he's thinking like a wingman. So this is 100% Roger being a good wingman. And we see that, Rayleigh's there chilling on the Oro Jackson Park, just, singing and drinking and stuff like that. And Shocky supposedly can sense this or knows this, can hear it from miles away. I don't know what it is, but she's got the love sickness and passes out and stuff. And Gloriosa's the one that, everyone step back, I know what this is, sort of idea, right? And we do see the narrator comes on at the end of the scene and says, Shocky's rules ensure that anyone coming to the pirate island to visit her establishment would be granted safe passage to and from. So that's why you can't really fight on the island proper. Like, if you come here to conquer, that's one thing, but if you came with the goal to visit the bar and then leave, no one's allowed to touch you. You're granted safe passage. I'm like, all right, now Roger taking out the line, I know it was for comedic effect, but does that count? I don't know. That doesn't seem like safe passage. Granted, he didn't kill anybody from what we understand. He just knocked them the hell out, probably with conquerors or something. And then he said even the fiercest of pirates would keep the peace on that island. However, but back at sea, all bets were off, and we see a serious Roger and a serious Rox, not silhouetted, but facing away from each other, and assuming that they have clashed many times on the open sea, sort of idea. And I can see that, you know what I mean? Because I think because we heard the team up between Garp and Roger, I think the community as a whole took it to mean it took their combined strengths to match his strength. when really that's not what was said. It was their combined strength took him down more than anything. So once again, I understand why the confusion and why people assume that Rox was above the trio of Whitebeard, Roger, and Garp were the three strongest on the open sea. And Rox was just that little bit better than all of them. They were all 99 and Rox is 100. It seems more like now we don't have triplets, and we now have a quad. We have a quad of equal powerhouses in the fact that Rox is not necessarily stronger or weaker than Prime Roger, Prime Garp, anything like that, because, or at least that's the way it's reading to me. Otherwise, why wouldn't, if they've clashed so many times, how could a crew like Rox's not just devastate the Roger pirates if that were the case? You know what I mean? So yeah, I would say that Rox is no weaker nor stronger than the tops of the Golden Age. You know what I mean? So that's all. This is really good. I really enjoy this entire chapter. I thought this chapter was great for this regard. Now, jumping a little bit back, we get this one page of St. Garling, of course, Shanks' daddy, and he's talking about the fact that 40 years ago that he wants to start another competition because, of course, he's an evil bastard and stuff like that. He's like, well, I stopped off at this other island. It's a non-affiliated island, but it has a really unique culture. So there's key words here. Apparently, God Valley has a unique culture. Obviously, because he hooked up with one of the natives of the island, right? He hooked up with a native God Valley woman and obviously has 2 kids out of it. And he said, we tried offering them membership to the world government, but however, they declined. And they have a vast, abundant amount of resources that would certainly prove valuable for us. However, while I was there, I also made an outrageous discovery. It was a completely unexpected find. And the Great One will surely be pleased with it. In 2 years' time, so the next competition, I strongly urge that we hold the hunt at God Valley. Dun dun dun. So a few things to pick apart here now that we've gone through the whole Roger, Rayleigh, Shockey, bar thing. A few things to note is, number one, obviously he's very bloodthirsty and he's got that entitlement, so he's always been a prick. So we got that. Number two is the fact that he says the Great One will surely be pleased with it, meaning that Garling and obviously the God's Knights are most likely all aware of Emu. So it's not just the Gorosei, and it was implied that that at the very least Garling knew. And, and stuff like that. But now I would say that even at way back then, 40 years ago, they knew about it. So the God's Knights are definitely all in the know. It doesn't seem to be specific to just Garling, because he's just a God's Knight at this point. He's not the Supreme Commander. He's just a God's Knight. He's just one of them. And he still knows about Emu. So I would go out on a limb and say that all the God's Knights know about Emu. This confirms it. So that's a big thing. The other, most of us assumed it, but it's nice to get the confirmation. Just like Shockey did have love sickness, is not the mother of Blackbeard, and hooked up with Rayleigh, sort of idea, right? Like, these are all things that we'd like to know, just to confirm. It's assumed, but confirmation is always nice. Similar to the whole Conquerors hockey debate. How many years went by that Garp doesn't have Conquerors? Because Oda didn't say it yet. You know what I mean? But that was obvious from day one. So, just things like that, it's nice to confirm. The other thing is that he's not talking about gold and riches and the resources and stuff of God Valley. There is an outrageous discovery, an unexpected find. I'm going to go off on a limb and say it's either the last road poneglyph, or it's obviously one of the devil fruits that Rox is keen on getting. Could be the Nika Nika fruit. It could be something. It's either, to my mind, it's either the last poneglyph or it's a devil fruit. The outrageous finds. The reason I think I'm leaning towards the poneglyph is because if it was just a devil fruit, why didn't Garling just take it? Why didn't he go, oh, I found this thing. Well, I'm going to bring it back and get praise from the Great One. Why not just take it with him? He couldn't take a poneglyph with him. Or he didn't have the means to. So, all right. I'm thinking that, or what have you. That's where my mind went. But obviously there's many theories out there already. I'm sure that the main people in the One Piece community, the main YouTubers and stuff, guys like Techie and stuff, they'll have a video about what is this outrageous discovery, what are the 9 possibilities that it could be, unless it's something that none of us could guess and Oda's got something completely different in mind. Possibly, you know what I mean? So there's definitely that. Now the end part of the chapter is what the chapter's actually entitled, which is funny because most of the chapter has nothing to do with this. It's just 2 big double-page spreads of Harold versus Rocks, where neither one, they beat the ever-loving shit out of each other. Once again, proving that Harold was every bit as strong as Rocks as well. So now we have 5 people in this content. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? Like, let's just add Sengoku to this while we're at it. You know what I mean? Like, none of these guys was so obviously in a one-on-one Rocks would beat everybody because he's tying these guys, it seems. You know what I mean? And I'm fine with that. I actually like that idea because, if he was so much stronger, then we have to scale Luffy so high up to this point that it would just be insane. So I actually like this. The battle looks incredibly intense. The Conqueror's Hockey and the clashes, it's bombastic in the realm of the dead of Elbath, and boom, boom, and they're striking at each other. And I am 100% on Rox's side here. Harold apparently took up the government on their offer to, if you kill Rox, we'll make you a member of the world government. And he's just like, they've got you wrapped around their finger and stuff like that. And Harold says, I was torn between this, but this is better for me. You're a villain, and you need to be stopped anyways. And on top of that, this will help my nation. And as a king, I need to put my nation first. And I was torn about doing this, but it's for the good of the giants, the good of the nation, and stuff like that. So I'll do what they ask. And Harold even says, you really kill a friend over a deal with this dirty government and stuff like that? Like, you bowed down to them? You'd be nothing but a tool. You giants will be nothing but just a power, a military asset to them. They'll never treat you like good people. And to this day, now 40 years into the future, Rox wasn't wrong. The giants are still mistreated. The giants are still outcasts. And, you know what I mean? Like, they're still assumed to be these bad people and stuff. And now you understand, because Harold goes on, and the people are going around. I mean, we've already talked about this, so I'll try not to harp on it. But he goes to these countries of humans and says, look, like, let's make friends, let's make allies and stuff. And they're like, look, man, people living on this island still remember the raid after raid from giants. People were stomped, killed, pillaged, and worse. We're not quick to forgive. You seem like a decent guy, but you're gonna have to wait a few generations. Like, this pain isn't going away. In the same way, not saying it's fair, but in the same way of everyone, the Japanese weren't treated great in North America and Europe after the World Wars. The Germans weren't treated very well. I mean, you can't, Koreans weren't treated well after Korea and stuff, like, and Vietnamese after Vietnam. Like, there are times when it's like, okay, and more so the World Wars, let's just keep it to one example. You can't tell these families, and we're not talking dozens, we're not talking hundreds, we're talking thousands upon thousands of families who lost sons and brothers and fathers due to these people, and then you're supposed to just accept them as your next door neighbors. You know what I mean? Or your government that fought them and sent your children and your parents off to die to fight them are now shaking hands with them. You would lose all faith. You would never, that monarchy or that government would fall and collapse tomorrow per island if they were to say, yeah, we're going to be friends with the giants now. And you're looking at the victims' families, and it's a rock and a hard place. They understand. They even say, Harold, we understand what you're trying to do, but this kind of fear and animosity does not fade easily. We're sorry, but no, we cannot do this. And Harald thinks it'll be better because they'll be forced to do this almost under the world government. He'll have a seat at the table and trade will... But the animosity is still going to be there and stuff. Like, Harald is such a naive... Like, once again, I've always... and I got a lot of dislikes on the video where I said that Harald's not a smart king. He's trying to split what I just talked about at the beginning of this chapter with Rayleigh. And the idea of people trying to balance their career and their work life and their duty, their responsibility, and what they want, and their family, and their personal life. And most people, that something breaks under the strain of just those two things, let alone adding a third or a fourth, major component to your life. Harald, unfortunately, is failing at both because he's stretching himself too thin. He's not at home enough to understand why Loki is the way he is, and he's too naive to understand that, you were one of these tyrants, by the way, for your teenage years. Like, the first 20, 30 years of Harald's life, he was one of the people. One of these giants. Like, it's not even like his father's generation or stuff. No, it was in your very generation. You were one of the raiders. And he thinks that, centuries, dozens of years and centuries of this will just go away like this easily. So he's so disheartened by this, but it's like change does not happen that quickly, and he should know better and stuff. So it's very hard to like Harald at this point because he's failing on all fronts at this point. He's trying to cause change, but he's making poor decisions while trying to make the change. He's trying to force change down people's throats, and he's going to fight and try to kill his friend over this, thinking that it'll be better. It's just it's not... Yeah, Harald is failing on all fronts because what he's trying to do is the right thing, but his decisions on the path to getting there are very dark side of the force. You know what I mean? He's not willing to walk the hard path. He's trying to get a shortcut to making this happen in like his lifetime. And it's so unrealistic that it borders on stupidity. And so, like, you feel for Rox here. Rox isn't wrong. Like, where's your warrior pride? Where's your own free will? How can you just follow them like a dog and stuff like that? And this is just absolutely ridiculous. And Rox just can't stand to hear his friend talk like this and calls him a cowardly rat and stuff, and it's just like, and he's trying to defend celestial dragons and stuff, and so finally Rox says, consider our friendship over. You'll never get an invitation from me ever again. And Harald stands there and says, I'm a king. I can't throw away my people's lives by following a villain like you into a losing battle. So, funnily enough, I think if Harald had joined Rox, they probably would have succeeded. I don't know. We don't know the details yet, but I'm pretty confident they would have succeeded. Because that's why everyone is so terrified of the Elbaf, the giants and stuff like that, right? So, fact is that, here's the thing, even if Harald did not want to kill his friend, like, here's the issue here, is that he says that I won't follow a villain like you into a losing battle. He could remain neutral. Because obviously he still failed. Elbaf is still not a member of the world government. So, in the end, Harald could have chosen to say, no, I'm not going to do your dirty work. I have my pride, and he's for better or for worse, we have a camaraderie, and I can't break that trust by, being your assassin. I'm going to do it, I'll spend however many years to make up for it, but I will not, I'm not an executioner sort of idea. And Harald could have chosen the high road. He could have chosen the more difficult path. And he chose not to. So he's a bad friend, he's a bad king, and he's a bad father. So, man, Harald is actually, like, he's a good person, but he's shitty at everything he attempts. He really is. My God. he's pretty bad. Like, he could have chosen to remain neutral instead of trying to murder his friend. And, like, there's just no justification for this. I'm on Rox's team on this one, you know. Sorry to say, you know what I mean? But yeah, apparently they did meet one more time after this. We don't know the details. Of course, Loki is there sitting on the shore getting news on Rox from the newspapers and stuff, but of course he's never going to see Rox again from what we understand, or their last meeting with Harald or something like that. I don't know. And then on God Valley, 1 year later in the West Blue, in God Valley, Shanks and Shamrock are born. And we see a shot of them. We don't see the mother. Now it's confirmed that it's her hair. She's the one with the red hair, not Garling, because I know the colorizations was always painting Garling with red hair and stuff like that. Apparently it wasn't him. It was, I don't know what his official hair color is, but it was their mother, who we don't see, but once again we can assume she looks like anybody. Like, I don't think she's going to be like super unique. I don't think there was a reason to hide the face. It was just like the big thing is revealing that the twins were born. So the twins were born on God Valley 39 years ago. That's the end of the chapter, and wow, there was so much to go over. Man, One Piece in the flashback, whenever we get lore drops like this, there's so much to talk about, you know. I understand why people do whole streams. You know what I mean? I understand why most of the major YouTubers do streams. And then there's Tekking, who does an hour-long review and then does a stream talking about it anyways. He does both. You know what I mean? So I get it. Because there is so much you could discuss. I could keep going on this chapter because there's so many possibilities, so many theories you could make. Just from line by line, word by word of these flashback chapters especially. So, but anyways, that's it from me, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys all enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe as always. And let me know what you guys thought of chapter 1158. It doesn't seem like there's any break next week, so 1159 will be next week. Looking forward to it. Hope you guys are too. And we'll see you back here next time. Have a good one. Sayonara, everybody.